I need to tell you a story that I've never shared before. It's about love, lies, and revenge. I was born into the kind of wealth that makes numbers blurry. Private schools with Latin mottos, winter breaks in places where the snow has flown in, summers on boats with names that sound like perfume. People assume that kind of life makes you loud. For me, it made me quiet. Because when you're the rich kid, you stop being a person and start being a door. One people are always trying to step through. Classmates wanted weekends at the mountain house. Dates wanted the last name more than the first. Even kindness felt like an invoice with net 30 terms. By my late 20s, I'd built myself a disguise. At family galas and boardrooms, I wore the uniform. Tailored suits, polished civility, the right answers. On my own time, I stripped all of it away. I kept my old Toyota Camry, the one that coughs before it agrees to start. I wore thrift store jackets that smelled faintly of cedar and detergent. I used a scratched flip phone with a hinge that clicked like a nervous tick. I'd walk the city like that. Anonymous, unremarkable. A face no one would remember 10 seconds later. That's the version of me she met. It was a rain that didn't bother with drama, just a steady, cold sheet that turned the sidewalks to graphite and taught your shoulders to curl. I ducked into a narrow bookstore crammed between a nail salon and a check-cashing place. The bell over the door brayed like an irritated goat. Inside was warm and crowded with the smell of paper and cinnamon tea. A cat slept on a stack of atlases like it had finally mapped the route to sleep. Jazz leaked from a radio with a dial that had lost half its numbers. She was behind the counter. Dark hair pulled into a loose ponytail, a pencil tucked behind one ear. Those soft, square glasses people wear when they actually read the books they sell. She moved in that unhurried way of people who like where they are. I grabbed the nearest book to look busy, a ridiculous romance with a shirtless pirate glowering on the cover. She glanced up, clocked the choice, and smirked. "Bold," she said. "Most people ease into pirates." "What's the recommended gateway crime?" I asked. "Shoplifting." "Smuggling," she said without looking away. "Lower stakes. Better hats." That was the opening 10 seconds. The next 20 minutes were books and weather and graduate school and why the cat only tolerated paying customers. Her name was May. She was finishing a master's in sociology, working part-time to keep rent boring. She talked with her hands when she got excited and tilted her head when she was listening in a way that made you want to keep saying things worth hearing. When I left, the rain had softened to mist, and I caught myself smiling at nothing like an idiot. I hadn't done that in years. I went back. Once because I said I'd return a book. I didn't need to. Once because I happened to be nearby. I wasn't. The third time I asked if she wanted to grab coffee when her shift ended. She checked the wall clock, pushed a stray hair behind her ear, and said, "There's a place that still uses mugs instead of paper cups. That seems important." Coffee turned into 2 hours, into a late lunch, into walking her home along streets that wore fire escapes like ladders to nowhere. We traded playlists through one earbud like middle schoolers. She told me about growing up the eldest daughter in an immigrant family where love is practical and worry is a dialect. About aunties who measure success in degrees and broth clarity. About how she chose sociology because numbers explain some things and people explain the rest. I told her I worked in tech-adjacent real estate, which is technically true if you let the word adjacent do Pilates. I kept it small on purpose, not because she couldn't handle it, but because I couldn't handle what it might change. Our dates were the kind that never make it to Instagram. We ate dumplings at a place where the Formica tables wobbled when the subway passed. We split skewers from a night market stall while a fortune teller with nicotine fingers insisted we were destined for a long argument about curtains. We watched old Jackie Chan movies on her couch. She paused to translate jokes the subtitles murdered and cackled at stunts that would violate at least 7 workplace safety regulations. On Sunday mornings, we walked to the park with greasy paper bags of Youtiao and coffee that refused to be good but insisted on being hot. She never asked about money, not once. She did ask why I wore the same jacket so often. I told her it was lucky. She said, "It's brave," deadpan, then tucked her hand in the crook of my arm like the truth hadn't gone anywhere. Guilt travels on a timer. Every night I'd lie awake rehearsing the confession. I pictured her face in a dozen versions: surprise, anger, disappointment, calculation. The last one haunted me most. I didn't want to see the math start behind her eyes. One night, after a day that cost more than it should have, we were on her floor, losing to each other at cards. She stretched out, the hem of her sweatshirt sliding to reveal a sliver of ankle as unassuming and devastating as a secret. "I don't care if I never have a lot," she said to the ceiling. "I care if I come home to someone who respects me, someone who sees me when I'm quiet." "There are moments that choose you." I nodded, and the guilt eased just enough to let the rest of the night be soft. After months of street food and couch movies, I wanted to dress the world up for her. Not to show off. To show her to a room that would be lucky to hold her. I picked a restaurant the magazines called Elevated but Restrained, which is rich person for, the portions are small and they charge for bread. It had banquettes upholstered in velvet the color of expensive bruises, and a host stand that looked like it had opinions about your shoes. May opened her apartment door in a blue dress that made time widen. She pinned her hair up with 2 silver clips shaped like commas, as if even her style wanted to pause and listen. We walked in with our reservation. My last name, unfortunately, still does heavy lifting even when I try to keep it sitting down. And the manager looked up. You learn to recognize a certain expression. Not confusion. Not curiosity. A quick assessment that ends with a decision about where you belong. His eyes did that math, landed on May, and something in his jaw tightened. "Reservation for Bennett," I said. He glanced at the screen like a priest reading from a Bible he found tedious. "Right. Follow me." We didn't follow him to the room everyone else got. We followed him past it, to a narrow two-top by the kitchen doors where servers shouldered through with plates that hissed like angry rain. I could see 3 empty tables in the main room. I could also see the way he never fully looked at her. "Is there a reason we can't sit in there?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral the way you do when you're trying to give someone enough rope to save himself. "That section is reserved," he said, which is a sentence true only in grammar. May touched my wrist under the table. A small pressure that said, "Not tonight." We sat. We ordered. We tried. The waiter arrived with the wine list and directed his commentary to me as if May had arrived as luggage. When she chose a Rhone, he pursed his lips and suggested something lighter. When she ordered the sea bass, he asked if she was comfortable with the spice level. When she asked for tamari instead of soy, he smiled like she'd tried to teach him a trick and said, "You speak very good English." Her English is better than mine. Her everything is often better than mine. She excused herself halfway through the main course. As she walked away, the manager leaned toward our waiter and, with the sloppy confidence of men who think the world has signed an NDA, said, "They come in here with a rich guy and think the rules change. It's cute until it isn't." The heat that bloomed in my chest was not theatrical. It was simple and clean, the way a match announces itself to dark. I could have stood up. I could have broken the night into 1,000 loud pieces. But the price of the fight would be paid by May, not me. She would carry the scene in her bones. The manager would carry a story about aggressive customers. I swallowed the fire and paid the bill that cost less than my restraint. In the car, she watched her hands in her lap. The blue dress reflected in the window, a private ocean. "I don't want to go back there," she said quietly. "We won't," I said. "Ever." She smiled without humor. "You get used to these things. Doesn't mean it doesn't nick you every time. A nick can be small and still reach the heart. Morning makes certain decisions clearer." I woke before the sun and made coffee the way my mother taught me when she wanted me to sit still long enough to listen. Then I called Elena, the family office's general counsel. Elena does not ask why. She asks when. "Elena," I said, "I need everything on the property at 7th and Klein. Tenants, lease terms, ownership structure, any encumbrances, any liens hidden under rugs." "Time frame?" she asked. "Yesterday." Understood. 2 hours later, the dossier landed in my inbox with the elegance of an airstrike. The building was owned by a private REIT in which we held a minority stake. Enough to know things, not enough to steer. The restaurant's lease was coming up inside 6 months. There were 3 competing offers for the ground floor if the current tenant failed to renew. The REIT had been flirting with an exit for 2 years. Options? Elena asked. Acquire the building through a new vehicle, I said. Quietly. No headlines. No Bennett fingerprints. We'll need to go over diligence. Environmental, structural, vendor contracts. I'm not asking you to cut corners, I said. I'm asking you to sharpen them. If this sounds cold, let me say it plainly. I wasn't scheming to ruin a man's life for sport. I was removing a piece from a board it never deserved to sit on and replacing it with one that could play the game better for everyone. If that feels like rationalization, fine. I've learned to live with the idea that good and petty can share a spine. We formed Kite Street Holdings LLC, a nothing name in a city of shell companies, and made an offer that solved problems the REIT had been massaging. We assumed certain headaches they were happy to stop budgeting Advil for. We sweet-talked lenders with relationships that predated my voice dropping. We closed in 41 days. When the ink dried, I walked past the host stand the same way I had that night. The manager, Richard, I learned, looked up and didn't recognize me. That felt correct. We do our best work when we're invisible. Elena sent the formal notice. The lease would not be renewed. We offered terms that allowed a graceful exit if the tenant wanted to salvage dignity. He chose loud instead, with a letter that suggested outsiders were ruining the neighborhood he'd alienated years ago. I don't remember if I read the last paragraph. I remember the font was bad. There are simpler forms of revenge than construction, cheaper too. But spite that doesn't improve the landscape is just litter. We hired Lynn Tran as general manager, a woman whose resume read like a case study in ceilings. Years of running other people's rooms, building other people's reputations, getting blocked at the last minute by owners who preferred a safer face on the website. When Elena asked for candidates, 3 independent suppliers and a chef we trusted said, "You want Lynn," before we finished the sentence. Lynn walked the space with a yellow legal pad and a face that did arithmetic in real time. "Flow is wrong," she said in the first 5 minutes. "You're making the staff fight the room. Host stand belongs here. Sightlines to the bar are dead. Kitchen pass chokes service at the exact moment you need it to breathe." We brought in Aiko, a designer who believes lighting is a moral issue. She warmed the room without dimming it, like she taught the chandeliers to be hospitable. We picked chairs sane people could sit in for 2 hours without negotiating with their spine. We hired a pastry chef who writes emails like love letters, and a line of servers who could solve a table's energy the way a good paramedic reads a pulse. Policy matters more than decor. Lynn wrote a handbook in plain language. 0 tolerance for discrimination from guests or staff. Escalation protocols that protected servers from being sacrifices to customer quirks. A training module on cultural humility that used real scenarios and didn't insult anyone with corporate clip art. A quiet fund for staff legal support and counseling, because hospitality asks people to swallow things no one should have to. We called the place Comet because I liked the idea of something bright blazing through and then returning on its own terms. The night we opened, May sat at the bar in a linen blouse that looked like it remembered summer. She watched, not with the brittle hope of someone waiting for a mess, but with the interested calm of a person who knows what good looks like and expects it. When Lynn stopped by with a plate of something new and asked for notes, May chewed, considered, and said, "More vinegar in the pickled shallots. Let the acid say hello first." Lynn grinned. "I like your girlfriend," she told me. "She eats like a manager." "Don't promote her," I said. "I can't afford to lose her to the industry." Comet found its people quickly. Not the kind who needed to be impressed. The kind who wanted to be delighted and treated like the story of their night mattered. Food writers came and didn't say the word fusion, which is the highest compliment a kitchen like ours can receive. There were families in good shoes and first dates in outfits they'd second-guessed in the mirror and solo diners who brought a novel because it's nice to be alone in a room that knows how to host you. The old regulars tried to return as if planting a flag in your memory earns you land rights. Most stayed. Some left when they realized they couldn't treat the staff like furniture. I did not send a car to bring them back. As for Richard, the market is small, and the gossip is free. I heard he took interviews that died halfway through once references were checked by people who no longer wanted to pretend. I heard he tried to open a pop-up, and the permits got lost in a municipal process that punishes rudeness more efficiently than law ever could. I did not send a single email, did not make a single call to further that story. The world did what it always does with men, who finally run out of other people's patience. I had delayed the truth as long as I could without turning it into a different kind of lie. One night, after we'd closed the restaurant to the public for a staff family meal, everyone crowded around pushed-together tables, arguing about whether cilantro tastes like soap. I drove May to the river where the city lets you pretend for a few minutes that it knows how to exhale. "There's something I need to tell you," I said, which is a sentence people should be allowed to ask questions about before they hear the rest. She turned, one eyebrow lifting in that small semaphore she uses to signal patience with an expiration date. "I'm not just the guy you met in the bookstore," I said. "I mean, I am that. But there's more. My family, my life, it's bigger. I keep it small with you because small feels honest and because I've never known how to be loved when the big thing is in the room." I told her about the family office and the way money can be a weather system you don't control. I told her about Elena and Kite Street and the building and the lease and how the night with the chandeliers collected interest I decided to pay in full. I expected anger, shock, a coldness that meant recalculation had begun. She looked out at the black water stitched with lights. Then she laughed this small sound that wasn't unkind. "You bought the building," she said, like she was adding up a bill no one else had noticed. "I did. And you reopened it so nobody else has to eat a meal like that again. That was the point. And you didn't tell me because you were scared I'd start doing math." "Yes," I said. "I was a coward. And also a person who has learned, badly, that the truth can rot on contact with certain expectations." She was quiet long enough for the night to make its own noises. "You could have told me," she said finally, "but it wouldn't have changed the thing that matters. I didn't fall in love with your ledger." "What did you fall in love with?" I asked before I could stop myself. She bumped my shoulder with hers. "A man who reads pirate romances in the rain and thinks lighting is a moral issue." We sat like that, two people who had moved an ugly thing out of the room to make space for a better one. "Just promise me something," she said. "Anything. If you plan to save me, ask first whether I want saving. And if you plan to burn something down, make sure you plant something where it stood." I nodded. "Deal." 2 months later, my father came to Comet with my mother in a sweater that cost a mortgage payment and pearls that belonged to someone who made decisions before laws did. They sat at the corner table Lynn reserves for the nights when she needs to watch the room and the room needs to know it's being watched. My father has a look he gives me when I've done something he would have done at my age if he'd had the time to grow a conscience earlier. He walked the perimeter like a general inspecting a fort he wouldn't mind defending. He tasted, nodded, asked Lynn 3 questions about margins that let her know he was not merely a man who enjoys being impressed. My mother took May's hands in both of hers and said, "Thank you for making my son interesting." It sounds like a backhanded compliment until you realize it's my mother's highest register of affection. We serve staff meal on Thursdays at 5. Lynn insists everyone sits. No one eats standing unless they're in an apology. On a Thursday not long after my parents visited, a kid in a suit who looked like he'd gotten in a fight with a catalog came in and asked if the owner was hiring. He introduced himself as a friend of Richard's, in the voice people use when they expect the world to hold their coat. Lynn didn't look up from the schedule she was annotating in 3 colors. "We're hiring humility," she said. "Send that friend." He left without leaving a shadow. Sometimes May and I go back to the bookstore where the cat still sleeps on countries it's never visited. The owner pretends not to remember me buying that pirate romance, then rings up 6 other things I pretend I had planned to buy. On the way home, we stop at a street cart for skewers. She orders in a mix of English and the language the uncle prefers. He adds an extra skewer because she compliments his knife work. At night, when the city hums the way a refrigerator hums in a quiet kitchen, May will tuck her feet under my leg and read me sentences she thinks I should carry the next day. Sometimes they're from sociology papers. Sometimes they're from cookbooks, written by people who mistake recipes for philosophy, and somehow make the mistake work. We don't go to places with chandeliers much anymore. Not because they're all bad, because we don't need their light to see each other. I told you this was about love, lies, and revenge. The lie was what I left out to protect what I didn't want to lose. The revenge wasn't a tantrum. It was urban planning. And the love, well, the love is the only part that made the other two worth the trouble. If you're waiting for the moral, it's small enough to fit in your pocket. Real love is specific. It notices, it asks, it builds. And if you're lucky enough to have power, use it like lighting, warm, honest, and pointed where the shadows have been winning for too long. Tell me, if you were me that night, with the blue dress and the chandeliers and the man who decided where people belong, what would you have done? Would you have swallowed it and moved on? Or would you have bought the room and taught it how to behave?
I, 28F, think my boyfriend, 30M, might be cheating on me, but not in the way you'd expect. I'm not talking about flirty texts or lipstick on his collar. I'm talking about... I don't even know how to say this without sounding insane. I think he might actually be living a double life. Here's the backstory. We've been together nearly 3 years. He's charming, attentive, has a stable finance job, his words, and everyone tells me how lucky I am. We live together, we talk about marriage, kids, all that. From the outside, we look perfect. But things have been off. At first, it was small. He's cagey about his past, avoids introducing me to family, and his phone is locked down tighter than Fort Knox. Then the work trip started. 2, sometimes 3 weekends a month. He never wants me to come with him. When I asked why, he'd joke, "You'd be bored sitting through meetings all day." Here's the kicker. A few weeks ago, he left his wallet in my car. When I opened it to grab his ID, we were going out and he forgot it. The name didn't match. His face, yes. His birthday, yes. But a completely different name. When I asked, he laughed it off. "Oh, that's just a fake I used in college." But something about his tone. It was too smooth, too rehearsed. Now I can't shake this feeling. I'm terrified to dig, but more terrified not to. Am I crazy, or is this the beginning of something way bigger? Update 1, posted 1 week later. I've been noticing more things since my last post, and honestly, I feel like I'm losing my mind. His work trips don't line up. I casually asked his co-worker at their holiday party how he survives all the travel, and she looked at me confused. Travel? He never travels. He's in the office every week. He has 2 different sets of credit cards, one with the name I know and one with the other name I found on the ID. His laptop has 2 logins. One is password protected. I've never seen him type it in front of me. I told myself maybe I was overreacting, so I Googled the second name. My stomach dropped. There's a LinkedIn profile. Same face, same age, same smile. But instead of finance, he's listed as an architect in another city. I thought maybe it was an old profile. Then I found a Facebook under that name. He's tagged in photos, family photos, with a woman and a kid. I'm shaking as I type this. I don't know what's real anymore. Do I have a boyfriend, or do I have a stranger who built me into his lie? Update 2, posted 3 days later. I confronted him last night. It was the scariest conversation I've ever had. I showed him the ID, the LinkedIn, the photos. At first, he laughed it off. That's not me. Someone's using my pictures. He was so calm it almost worked. I almost believed him. But when I refused to back down, he cracked. He admitted it. His real name is the one on the ID. He really is an architect. He really does have a partner. And yes, a child. He said he felt trapped in that life, so he created a new one. The finance guy, I thought I knew. Me. Our life together. He begged me not to tell anyone. He swore he was planning to leave his old life and just be with me. But how could I ever believe a man whose entire existence with me was built on lies? Update 3. Posted 1 month later. I left him, packed my things and went to my sister's house the same night I confronted him. But I couldn't stop thinking about her, the woman in the Facebook photos. She deserves to know. So I reached out, sent screenshots, explained everything. She didn't believe me at first. Then she admitted. I wasn't the first woman to contact her about him. Turns out, he's been running multiple lives. Different names, different jobs, different girlfriends. I wasn't special. I was just another chapter in his con. She and I cried together on the phone, bonding over betrayal. She said she's leaving him, finally. She's pressing charges for fraud. HR at his real job has been notified too. His entire house of cards is collapsing. Final update, posted 6 months later. It's over. He lost his job. His partner left him. At least one other woman is suing him for fraud. He even tried to contact me again, begging me to take him back. I blocked him instantly. I'm in therapy now. Some nights I still wake up wondering, was anything real? Did he ever love me? Or was I just a prop in his game? But I'm stronger now, and if you take anything from my story, let it be this. Trust your gut. Ask questions, even if you're scared of the answers. If something feels too good to be true, it probably is. He lived 2 lives, but I only get one, and I refuse to waste it on a man made of lies.
Bonus story. I'm pregnant. My mom wants to come stay with us after we deliver the baby. Not so she can take care of her, but so she can take care of me. My mom had me unexpectedly when she was in high school, and she raised me on her own. So growing up, it was really the 2 of us against the world. I've always thought of her as a superwoman for so many reasons. She's my best friend. I'm 28 now, happily married to my high school sweetheart, and we are expecting our first, a daughter, here in a few months. My mom requested to plan my baby shower, and of course, I was elated at the offer. We had a 3-hour-long phone call a few days ago, going over the invite list, theme, registry, all the things. Towards the end of the call, she told me she really wanted to come stay with us after we deliver her. She said we've probably gotten this offer a ton, and we have, but said she didn't want to do it to take care of the baby. She wants to come to take care of me. She told me when she had me, it was the happiest time in her life. But after I was born, everyone was so focused on me. My mom could barely walk for several weeks afterwards, and she said no one seemed to really care. And she said, as she's gotten older, she sees this happening often. Women have their babies, and their support system gets so focused on their babies that they forget about the mom. She said she remembered going through all of this, and she promised herself to me as a baby that she would never let me go through it alone. She said, and I quote, "I promise you, I won't forget about you." I've been crying on and off during the few days that have followed. Of course she's coming to stay with us. My husband and I have been figuring out a good plan for her, but it just has me so emotional. I can only hope that I am as great of a mother to my daughter as she is to me. I, 22 female black, found out my boyfriend, 23 male white, and his friends are racist and misogynistic. Now, I don't know how to move forward. The background. We've been together for 2 years. He's my first serious relationship, and honestly, for a while, I thought he was the one. He's kind, funny, and not the stereotypical alpha guy. He's softer, quieter, and more sensitive. We balance each other out. I've always been the more outgoing one, while he leans on the introverted side. We live with his parents, who generously allow us to stay rent-free. That arrangement has been a lifesaver for me. It's helped me pay off debt, repair my awful credit, thanks to 18-year-old me making stupid choices, and try to get back on my feet financially. We have 2 cats together, and we split responsibilities at home. I cook and clean the majority of the time, even prep his meals for the week, because I grew up watching my mom do that, and it felt like the woman's work. I never minded, or at least, I thought I didn't. But now I can't stop asking myself, was I already carrying more of the weight while he just coasted? Here is how it went. It started off so simple. His car was in the shop, so I offered to drive him to a hangout with his friends. I bought him some beers to bring along, and for myself, I picked up wine to sip on while playing Red Dead Redemption 2, my current obsession. I was invited to come, but the truth is, I've never liked his friends. I'll explain why later. He comes home drunk around midnight. I take care of him when he throws up, then tease him playfully about it. Suddenly, he decides to mess with me by trying to exit my game. I laughed at first, thought he was joking, and fought back to save. But then he completely shut off the PC. It was so out of character for him, he's not usually petty or aggressive, that I just brushed it off and we went to bed. But once in bed, things got weird. He started spiraling about not looking like Arthur Morgan, the main character of RDR2. He compared himself to a video game character. He went on about his looks, how he wasn't manly enough, how I must be secretly disappointed in him. I told him he was being dumb, that I love him regardless. But he fixated on the word dumb. He got defensive and pissy, saying I was calling him dumb instead of reassuring him. At that point, I didn't even know what to say. The argument came out of nowhere, so I left and went to sleep on the couch. When I came back later, he was passed out. Something in me, maybe intuition, maybe suspicion, told me to check his phone. I searched my name and his messages. What I found first wasn't awful, but it was unsettling. Texts from 6 months ago when we briefly broke up. His best friend had told him things like, "I don't think she's the one for you. I don't like the things she's pressuring you to do." That confused me. I've never pressured him into anything. I enjoy going out to restaurants and bars, but if he doesn't come, I still go. I don't drag him. Financially, I pay sometimes, he pays sometimes. I keep the house clean, do the cooking, the laundry, even prep his meals. If anything, I've been the one doing more. What was this pressure his best friend was talking about? Then I kept scrolling. That's when I found my boyfriend himself texting that it was disgusting that I was becoming obese after starting birth control. For context, I used to be severely underweight, a size 0. After starting birth control, I gained weight and now I'm mid-size, a size 6. That's still nowhere near obese. But he had described it that way to his best friend. That stung.
Haven't I seen you
And then I
here
opened his
before?
group chats. That's when my stomach turned. His friends
Got a
are all
good
white
memory
men.
for
They've made me
faces.
uncomfortable since I first met them.
Bar's closed.
Casually
Start.
saying the N-word, making edgy jokes that were just racist, brushing it off as humor. The first time it happened, I called it out, but tried to do it in a half-joking way because I didn't want to be painted as the angry black girl. One guy even apologized, but the vibe stuck with me. I didn't go back. What I saw in their group chats confirmed everything I feared, and more. There were George Floyd jokes, World War II memes, slurs thrown around casually like punctuation. And then, from my boyfriend, a meme of a Pokemon card that said, "Catching a Negress." That was it for me. Something in me broke. Because here's the thing. It's not just about the memes. It's about what it represents. If this is how he jokes when I'm not around, how could I ever think about marrying him? How could I ever bring a biracial child into the world with a man who makes jokes like that?
She in her den?
After a couple days of space, I confronted him. I admitted I snooped. I told him what I saw. I told him I was appalled. His defense? He claimed he doesn't really see those guys as friends, just drinking buddies. He said he doesn't agree with them but is scared of being friendless because they've known each other since childhood. He said they make fun of him too, and he just laughs it off. He admitted one night one of them even sexually harassed him while drunk, asking him to sleep with him, while others made jungle fever comments about him dating me. His solution was to isolate himself at the pool instead of standing up. I told him, if you won't respect yourself enough to cut them off, at least respect me. But here's the kicker. He agreed he wouldn't want these friends at our wedding or around future children. He even admitted they're toxic. So my question is, if you know they're that bad, why did you ever bring me around them in the first place? My breaking point. I've defended him before. When his friends insulted him in the same group chat, he showed me. And I literally grabbed his phone and cursed the guy out on the spot. I stuck up for him without hesitation. But would he ever do the same for me?
You just answer my question.
Based on everything I've seen,
I'm trying to find Evelyn. That's all you need to know.
I also reminded him. He told me 6 months ago that my weight gain was unattractive. Since then, I've lost 15 pounds. I'm trying. And yet, what's really unattractive is a man with no spine, no moral code, and no respect for his partner. He said he'd confront them now. But why did it take this for him to even consider doing that? Right now, I feel disgusted, embarrassed that this is who I chose, and stuck. If breaking up were just about emotions, I'd have left yesterday. But it's not that simple. I live with him and his family rent-free. That arrangement has been the only thing keeping me afloat financially. My car barely runs. Moving out would take me months of saving. My friends offered me places to crash, but that would only delay me getting my own place.
It's a dollhouse.
On paper, breaking up is the obvious choice. In practice, it's terrifying.
Or a drone.
For now, I'm keeping things cordial because I need a roof over my head while I plan my exit. Update 1. After talking to friends, I realized it's not about whether he's racist. I don't think he is racist in the overt, hateful way his friends are, but he's complicit. He's spineless. He has no moral backbone. And honestly, that's worse in some ways. Because if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything. He chooses to keep people like this in his life out of fear of loneliness. He tolerates them. He excuses them. He laughs along. And that's not the man I want to marry, have kids with, or build a life with. The love I had for him is gone. What's left is logistics, planning my exit, getting my finances in order, and figuring out where to go next. I don't know how long it will take me, but I know one thing. I will not waste the rest of my life with a man who doesn't have the courage to defend me, respect me, or even respect himself. Final update. It's been a few weeks since my last post, and I wanted to give some closure because a lot of people asked what I decided to do. After sitting with everything, I realized I couldn't keep living in limbo, half pretending everything was fine for the sake of stability, while secretly planning an exit. It was eating me alive. Every time I looked at him, I thought about the group chats. Every time he tried to kiss me, I thought about him calling my weight disgusting. Every time he mentioned his friends, I thought about the slurs, the memes, and his silence. So I ended it. I told him directly that I could not continue in a relationship where my partner had no backbone, no moral compass, and no respect for me. I told him I could forgive a lot of things, insecurity, immaturity, even bad decisions, but not complicity in racism and disrespect. And not the fact that it took me snooping and confronting him for him to even consider setting boundaries with his so-called friends. He cried. He begged. He told me he didn't mean the things he said about my weight, that the meme he sent was old, that he was just trying to fit in with them. He promised he'd cut them off for good. But to me, that was too little. Too late. I told him I wasn't leaving because of what he might do going forward. I was leaving because of what he already did. I packed what I could and moved in with a friend temporarily. I'm not going to pretend it was easy. The financial hit hurts, The uncertainty is scary. Untangling our lives, even just 2 years' worth, has been exhausting. The cats were the hardest part. I ended up taking one and leaving the other with him, which broke me. But I couldn't stay just because of logistics. What I've realized is that love isn't enough if there's no respect. And respect isn't just how someone treats you to your face. It's who they are when you're not in the room. And who he was when I wasn't around is someone I will never unsee. Right now, I feel lighter. Sad, but lighter. I've been reconnecting with friends, working more hours, and saving toward my own place. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I made the right choice. If anyone reading this is in a similar situation, here's what I'll say. Don't settle for someone who only respects you in the daylight, but lets others tear you down in the dark. You deserve better. I deserved better. And now, I'm finally moving toward it. I've served in the US Army for 8 years. I'm no stranger to tough situations, deployments, 20-mile ruck marches, leaders who make you question your life choices at 0400. But nothing prepared me for the war I'd end up fighting in my own neighborhood. See, after returning from a rotation overseas, I bought a small house just outside base. Nothing fancy. Just a modest home with a flagpole out front, a patchy yard, and a driveway where I parked my beat-up Ford. That's when I met her. The self-appointed dictator of our HOA. Let's call her Karen. Karen was the chairman, president, CEO, basically the supreme leader of our HOA. She greeted me the day I moved in with a tight smile and a packet of guidelines. I thought nothing of it. Every neighborhood has rules, right? But Karen wasn't enforcing rules. She was enforcing control. At first, I thought Karen was just one of those people. You know the type. A little too into neighborhood rules. Probably spends way too much time writing Facebook rants about trash bins and teenagers skateboarding. Annoying, but manageable. I was wrong. Karen didn't enforce rules. She weaponized them. 2 days after moving in, I came home from work to find a neon orange sticky note plastered to my front door. It read, "Per HOA guidelines, grass must not exceed 2.5 inches in height. Yours measured over 3.0 inches. Unacceptable. Please correct immediately to maintain neighborhood standards." There was no signature, but the handwriting was aggressive. Like each letter was pressed down with the fury of 1,000 suburban moms. Mind you, I'd only moved in 2 days ago. The lawn wasn't even mine yet, technically. But okay, fine. I borrowed a buddy's mower and cut it that night. Problem solved, I thought. The next morning, I caught her. Measuring. With an actual ruler. Out there on her hands and knees in my yard at 6:30 a.m., muttering to herself like some kind of deranged golf caddy. A week later, it was the flag. I've flown the American flag everywhere I've lived. It's not for show. It's a part of who I am. I even follow proper flag protocol. Sunrise to sunset. Illuminated at night. Folded with care. Karen knocked on my door at 9 a.m., sharp, HOA binder in hand. According to Section 3, Subsection B, flags are only permitted on federally recognized holidays, she snapped. I blinked at her. You're telling me I can't fly the American flag, unless it's Memorial Day or the 4th of July? She folded her arms. Those are the rules. I smiled. Ma'am, those rules don't apply. Federal law says otherwise. She scowled, clearly not used to someone pushing back. I'll be reporting this at the next meeting. Then she turned on her heel like a bad sitcom villain. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. 2 weeks later, my buddy came by to help me move a couch. He parked in my driveway. 30 minutes later, Karen was knocking again, binder clutched to her chest like it contained the nuclear codes. You can't park there, she barked. I stared at her. You mean my driveway? Driveways are for active loading and unloading only. Guests must park in designated visitor spaces. It was absurd. There were no visitor spaces within half a mile. I told her as much. Then he shouldn't be visiting, she sniffed, and stormed off. 2 days later, I got a fine in the mail for unauthorized parking. After that, it became weekly harassment. One day, she claimed my porch light was too bright and ruining the neighborhood aesthetic. Another, she accused me of improper trash placement. because my bin was 6 inches closer to the curb than her arbitrary measurement. She even wrote me up for unsightly objects when I left my boots on the porch overnight. But the worst? The day she went after me personally. I had drill that weekend, so, like always, I woke up early, threw on my uniform, and started loading my gear into the car. Ruck, duffel, boots, nothing out of the ordinary. That's when I heard it. The shrill, unmistakable voice of Karen cutting through the morning air like nails on a chalkboard. "Military or not," she snapped, marching across the street. "You don't get special treatment here. People like you think the rules don't apply. You should be ashamed of yourself." I froze, my hands still on the duffel bag. "What exactly am I supposed to be ashamed of, ma'am?" I asked slowly. "Parading around in costume," she sneered. "Parking however you like, flying your little flag, thinking you're above the law. This is a neighborhood, not a base." Something inside me snapped. I didn't yell, I didn't curse. I just gave her the sharpest salute I've given anyone in my career, locked eyes with her and said, "Yes, ma'am." Her face turned beet red as I slid into my car and drove off. But the whole ride to drill, my mind was spinning. This wasn't about grass or flags or trash bins. It was about control. And Karen had decided I was her new enemy. Well, she didn't know it yet. But she'd just declared war on a soldier. Here's the thing Karen didn't understand. When you mess with one soldier, you mess with all of us. At drill the next month, I told my platoon about Karen. You could see the fire light up in their eyes. Soldiers don't like bullies, and they really don't like people disrespecting the uniform. So Operation HOA Justice was born. We didn't break laws. We didn't break rules. We just used Karen's own obsession with the HOA against her. The flag detail. Every morning, different soldiers in uniform would come to my house at sunrise and perform a full military flag-raising ceremony. Precision. Salutes. Bugle music from someone's speaker. Karen came out screaming every time, but it was 100% legal. The parking war. Since the HOA rules didn't specify a limit on visitors, every weekend a different squad member would visit me. My driveway, curb, and half the block were lined with pickup trucks, Camrys, and a Humvee once. All registered guests. No violations. The grass patrol. Karen loved to measure grass height, so I invited a few engineer buddies over. They used laser levels to trim my lawn to exactly 2.5 inches across every square foot. Karen brought her little ruler and found perfection. The complaint flood. Soldiers started attending HOA meetings, in uniform. Every time Karen tried to target me, they'd ask 50 questions about her spending, her enforcement, her violations. Turns out, she hadn't filed the right paperwork for her own backyard shed. The tipping point? One of our JAG officers lived nearby. When he caught wind of it, he showed up in full dress uniform to the next HOA meeting. Calmly pointed out that Karen's flag ban violated federal law, the Freedom to Display the American Flag Act. He even quoted chapter and verse. Karen turned redder than an artillery tracer. Word spread through the neighborhood fast. Other residents, who'd been quietly bullied by Karen for years, suddenly realized they weren't alone. They started pushing back. Petitions were signed, votes were cast, and just like that, Karen was removed as HOA chair. Her reign of terror ended not with a bang, but with a ballot. The best part? She tried to claim harassment by the military. But by then, everyone knew the truth. She wasn't a victim. She was just a tyrant who finally picked the wrong fight. These days, my house is peaceful. The flag still waves proudly every morning, and the grass is exactly as high as I damn well want it. And every time I walk past Karen's house, because yes, she still lives there, I give her a crisp salute. She slams the blinds shut every time. I've served in the U.S. Army for 8 years. I'm no stranger to tough situations, deployments, 20-mile ruck marches, leaders who make you question your life choices at 0400. But nothing prepared me for the war I'd end up fighting in my own neighborhood. See, after returning from a rotation overseas, I bought a small house just outside base. Nothing fancy. Just a modest home with a flagpole out front, a patchy yard, and a driveway where I parked my beat-up Ford. That's when I met her. the self-appointed dictator of our HOA. Let's call her Karen. Karen was the chairman, president, CEO, basically the supreme leader of our HOA. She greeted me the day I moved in with a tight smile and a packet of guidelines. I thought nothing of it. Every neighborhood has rules, right? But Karen wasn't enforcing rules. She was enforcing control. At first, I thought Karen was just one of those people. You know the type. A little too into neighborhood rules. Probably spends way too much time writing Facebook rants about trash bins and teenagers skateboarding. Annoying, but manageable. I was wrong. Karen didn't enforce rules. She weaponized them. 2 days after moving in, I came home from work to find a neon orange sticky note plastered to my front door. It read, "Per HOA guidelines, grass must not exceed 2.5 inches in height. Yours measured over 3.0 inches. Unacceptable. Please correct immediately to maintain neighborhood standards." There was no signature, but the handwriting was aggressive. Like each letter was pressed down with the fury of 1,000 suburban moms. Mind you, I'd only moved in 2 days ago. The lawn wasn't even mine yet, technically. But okay, fine. I borrowed a buddy's mower and cut it that night. Problem solved, I thought. The next morning, I caught her. Measuring. With an actual ruler. Out there on her hands and knees in my yard at 6:30 a.m., muttering to herself like some kind of deranged golf caddy. A week later, it was the flag. I've flown the American flag everywhere I've lived. It's not for show. It's a part of who I am. I even follow proper flag protocol. Sunrise to sunset. Illuminated at night. Folded with care. Karen knocked on my door at 9 a.m., sharp, HOA binder in hand. According to Section 3, subsection B, flags are only permitted on federally recognized holidays, she snapped. I blinked at her. You're telling me I can't fly the American flag, unless it's Memorial Day or the 4th of July? She folded her arms. Those are the rules. I smiled. Ma'am, those rules don't apply. Federal law says otherwise. She scowled, clearly not used to someone pushing back. I'll be reporting this at the next meeting. Then she turned on her heel like a bad sitcom villain. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. 2 weeks later, my buddy came by to help me move a couch. He parked in my driveway. 30 minutes later, Karen was knocking again, binder clutched to her chest like it contained the nuclear codes. You can't park there, she barked. I stared at her. You mean my driveway? Driveways are for active loading and unloading only. Guests must park in designated visitor spaces. It was absurd. There were no visitor spaces within half a mile. I told her as much. Then he shouldn't be visiting, she sniffed, and stormed off. 2 days later, I got a fine in the mail for unauthorized parking. After that, it became weekly harassment. One day, she claimed my porch light was too bright and ruining the neighborhood aesthetic. Another, she accused me of improper trash placement, because my bin was 6 inches closer to the curb than her arbitrary measurement. She even wrote me up for unsightly objects when I left my boots on the porch overnight. But the worst? The day she went after me personally. I had drill that weekend, so, like always, I woke up early, threw on my uniform, and started loading my gear into the car. Ruck, duffel, boots, nothing out of the ordinary. That's when I heard it. The shrill, unmistakable voice of Karen cutting through the morning air like nails on a chalkboard. Military or not, she snapped, marching across the street. You don't get special treatment here. People like you think the rules don't apply. You should be ashamed of yourself. I froze, my hand still on the duffel bag. What exactly am I supposed to be ashamed of, ma'am? I asked slowly. Parading around in costume, she sneered. Parking however you like, flying your little flag, thinking you're above the law. This is a neighborhood, not a base. Something inside me snapped. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I just gave her the sharpest salute I've given anyone in my career, locked eyes with her and said, "Yes, ma'am." Her face turned beet red as I slid into my car and drove off. But the whole ride to drill, my mind was spinning. This wasn't about grass, or flags, or trash bins. It was about control. And Karen had decided I was her new enemy. Well, she didn't know it yet. But she'd just declared war on a soldier. Here's the thing Karen didn't understand. When you mess with one soldier, you mess with all of us. At drill the next month, I told my platoon about Karen. You could see the fire light up in their eyes. Soldiers don't like bullies, and they really don't like people disrespecting the uniform. So Operation HOA Justice was born. We didn't break laws. We didn't break rules. We just used Karen's own obsession with the HOA against her. The flag detail. Every morning, different soldiers in uniform would come to my house at sunrise and perform a full military flag-raising ceremony. Precision. Salutes. Bugle music from someone's speaker. Karen came out screaming every time, but it was 100% legal. The parking war. Since the HOA rules didn't specify a limit on visitors, every weekend a different squad member would visit me. My driveway, curb, and half the block were lined with pickup trucks, Camrys, and a Humvee once. All registered guests. No violations. The grass patrol. Karen loved to measure grass height, so I invited a few engineer buddies over. They used laser levels to trim my lawn to exactly 2.5 inches across every square foot. Karen brought her little ruler and found perfection. The complaint flood. Soldiers started attending HOA meetings, in uniform. Every time Karen tried to target me, they'd ask 50 questions about her spending, her enforcement, her violations. Turns out, she hadn't filed the right paperwork for her own backyard shed. The tipping point? One of our JAG officers lived nearby. When he caught wind of it, he showed up in full dress uniform to the next HOA meeting. Calmly pointed out that Karen's flag ban violated federal law, the Freedom to Display the American Flag Act. He even quoted chapter and verse. Karen turned redder than an artillery tracer. Word spread through the neighborhood fast. Other residents, who'd been quietly bullied by Karen for years, suddenly realized they weren't alone. They started pushing back. Petitions were signed, votes were cast, and just like that, Karen was removed as HOA chair. Her reign of terror ended not with a bang, but with a ballot. The best part? She tried to claim harassment by the military. But by then, everyone knew the truth. She wasn't a victim. She was just a tyrant who finally picked the wrong fight. These days, my house is peaceful. The flag still waves proudly every morning, and the grass is exactly as high as I damn well want it. And every time I walk past Karen's house, because yes, she still lives there, I give her a crisp salute. She slams the blinds shut every time.
So buckle up. This is a bit of a long one. I, 22 male at the time, graduated college last year with a degree in marketing and actually managed to land my dream job right out of school. I don't come from money, so the fact that I even made it through college was already huge for me. I worked part-time at a campus coffee shop, took out loans, and basically lived off ramen and free pizza at student events. When I finally walked into that big downtown glass office building with a badge that had my name on it, it felt like everything I'd worked for had finally paid off. And through all of this, I had Emily, 21 female. We met junior year at a mutual friends party. She was funny, supportive, and honestly the kind of girl who lit up a room. She stuck with me through the late nights, the stress, the broke college kid life. I thought, this is it. This is the person I want to build my future with. When I started my job, I felt like I was leveling up in life, and I wanted to bring her with me. We'd celebrate my first paychecks by going out to restaurants we couldn't afford before. I bought her little things, flowers, her favorite snacks, concert tickets, because for the first time, I could. But here's the thing about success. It takes time. I started working crazy hours. Marketing isn't just 9 to 5, it's deadlines, late nights, last-minute revisions, client calls on weekends. Emily didn't like that. She'd complain that I was married to my job. I'd try to explain that I was doing this for us, for our future, but it didn't seem to land. Then I started noticing little things. She'd be on her phone way more than usual, smiling at texts and quickly locking it when I glanced over. She became vague about where she was going. Out with friends became her go-to answer, but no names, no details. Her energy was just different, less warm, more distant. I brushed it off at first. I didn't want to be that jealous boyfriend. But then came the night everything fell apart. It was a Friday. I left work early, something I rarely got to do. I thought it'd be nice to surprise her with dinner from her favorite Thai place. I remember feeling good, like I was doing something thoughtful to make up for the time I hadn't been around. I walked into her apartment with the spare key she gave me. There were men's sneakers by the door that weren't mine, a jacket on the couch. I heard laughter from her bedroom. I didn't wait to see more. I left the food on the counter, turned around and walked out. She called me a dozen times that night, then showed up at my place crying. The excuses poured out. It didn't mean anything. I was just lonely. You're never around anymore. None of it mattered. That was the moment something inside me broke. The weeks after were brutal. I kept it together at work because I had to, but inside I was wrecked. Nights were the worst. I'd lie awake replaying everything in my head. Her laugh, her texts, her excuses. I stopped going to the gym, ate garbage, ignored my friends' calls. My apartment looked like a landfill of takeout boxes and empty coffee cups. The lowest point? One Sunday morning, I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. Pale, unshaven, eyes hollow. I didn't recognize myself. That's when I realized I had two choices: keep sinking or claw my way back, so I chose to fight. Fitness. Started running again, even when it hurt. Turned anger into fuel. Slowly got back in shape. Career. Threw myself into my work. I pitched bold campaigns, stayed late, asked for more responsibility. My boss noticed. A senior manager even called me the kid with fire. Friends reached out to people I had pushed away. They dragged me back into life. Hikes, game nights, random late-night diner runs. I remembered what it felt like to laugh again. Over time, the pain dulled. Not gone, but bearable. More importantly, I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. Nearly a year later, I got a call. Emily. Her name lighting up on my phone hit me like a punch. I almost let it go to voicemail, but curiosity won. Her voice was soft, hesitant. Hey, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I've been thinking about you a lot. I made a mistake. I ended things with him. Can we meet? Against my better judgment, I agreed. Not because I wanted her back. Honestly, I think I just wanted closure. We met at a quiet coffee shop downtown. She looked the same but different. Tired eyes, nervous smile. She started with the apologies. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. You were the best thing in my life. I want to try again. She even cried. The old me would have folded. But this me? The one who built himself back from nothing? I just shook my head. I told her, no, Emily, you had me, all of me, and you threw it away. I'm not that guy anymore. I worked too hard to rebuild myself to step back into the same fire that burned me. I stood up, left money for my coffee, and walked out. Didn't look back. A few weeks later, I went to a networking event for young professionals. Met Claire, smart, funny, driven, with this spark that made conversations easy. We've been hanging out more, and it feels refreshing. I'm not saying she's the one, but she's someone new. Someone who met me as the person I became, not the broken version I had to rebuild from. And that's enough for me. Final update. Wow. I didn't expect my original post to blow up the way it did. I read a lot of the comments, and honestly, you guys gave me more perspective than I realized I needed. Some of you were harsh, some were supportive, but all of it helped me process everything. So here's where I'm at now. After that coffee shop meeting, I thought Emily would just fade out of my life again. But a few days later, she texted me a long apology letter. It was basically a mix of guilt, regret, and nostalgia. I didn't reply. A week after that, she tried calling me again, this time drunk. That was the last straw. I blocked her number. And you know what? The moment I hit block, I felt free. Like I finally shut a door I should have closed months earlier. As for me, work has only gotten better. I got promoted to lead a project that just landed a huge client. My boss literally told me I have executive potential. Wild. Fitness-wise, I'm in the best shape of my life. Running 5Ks again, lifting heavy, and I actually feel proud when I look in the mirror now. Social life is thriving. My circle is small, but it's solid. Friends who stick around for late-night talks, road trips, and the kind of support you can't buy. And yes, Claire and I are officially dating now. It's still new, but it feels different in the best way. There's trust, laughter, and zero drama. She knows what I went through, and instead of judging me, she respects the grind it took to get here. The biggest thing I've learned, you can't control who hurts you, but you can control what you do afterward. Emily broke me, but she also accidentally pushed me into becoming the best version of myself. And for that weird reason, I don't even hate her anymore. I just don't care. She's part of my past, and I've got way too much ahead of me to waste time looking back. So yeah, that's the end of the story. If you're going through something similar, getting cheated on, feeling like your world just collapsed, please know it doesn't end there. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is the very thing that sets you up for the best chapters of your life.